Ever thought about what you'd need to do if your garage door got stuck, closed, or open? Picture this. You're rushing to work or maybe coming home after a long day and suddenly you're completely stranded. Well, now you don't have to worry about that nightmare scenario because Garage Door Plus can do a complete inspection on your garage door for just $29. They'll thoroughly examine all moving parts, check the wear on the mechanical components, test springs, cable, and opener system of your garage door to keep you worry-free throughout the entire year. It's preventive maintenance that can save you hundreds of dollars and major headaches down the road. This actually happened to my wife, and it literally left her stranded. She couldn't get out because the garage door was completely stuck. We called up Garage Doors Plus, and they were there in no time to take care of the problem. The technician was professional, efficient, and got us back up and running quickly. Now I have my shop and personal home garage doors inspected every year. It's the best investment I make for my peace of mind. If you want fast, dependable, reliable service, including emergency garage door service, call Garage Doors Plus at 612-760-7551 or find them online at GarageDoorsPlusLLC.com.
From working in his family's Chinese restaurant, to bartending, to becoming present-day owner of Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, my father's true superpower is human connection. Now, he's on a mission to capture the most fascinating stories that make up the Minnesota community. You're listening to the Twin City Tales podcast.
Today, we're joined by Stefani Havel, whose journey from an Italian immigrant farm right here in Minnesota to corporate leadership to launching her own sales business perfectly captures the entrepreneurial spirit of our Twin Cities community. Stefani believes in selling through service and authentic relationships, and she's passionate about helping leaders create cultures where people feel valued and heard. Stefani, welcome to the Twin City Tales podcast.
Thank you, Wyman. It's so great to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Oh, I think this is going to be a fun podcast. So you grew up in like the Roseville area, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. How was that? What was that like growing up in Roseville?
It was great. And I was really fortunate. You mentioned my family. So where we lived in Roseville, my grandparents lived in the house right next door to us. And then my grandma, my dad's mom, lived across the street from us on the lake, on Lake Owasso in Roseville. So it was great. It was always really nice, that families to stay together. I spent a lot of time with both grandparents and cousins. So it was really nice upbringing.
Yeah, and if I remember right, you are like related to the Fratellone family.
Correct. Yep. That was my mom's family. My mom's side of the family is the Fratellones. So our cousins, my uncle, my mom's brother owns the Fratellone Excavating and Paving, the orange trucks. And then our cousins own the Fratellones hardware store. So, and we all get along, and they do spell a little different. The hardware store has 2 L's in Fratellone. So they say Fratellone and we say Fratellones because there's only 1 L in our families. So they just kind of changed it up that way to, differentiate the families a little bit.
Interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I actually knew Sam Fratellone, who owned an Italian restaurant back in the 80s. My parents owned a restaurant on White Bear Avenue.
That's right.
Called
Yes.
Jerry's Drive-In, right? And we still get so for you audience listening out there, people that lived on that east side of St. Paul knew about Sam Fratellone. I can't remember the restaurant's name.
I know. I think we talked about it before, but I can't remember
It wasn't the brick oven, the Italian brick oven.
And I should know it. But I do remember going there on occasion and really authentic Italian food.
And then there was Hafner's, which was a staple of that side. And then, of course, Jerry's Drive-In Restaurant, which my dad bought in the late 80s. So.
And who knows? We probably knew each other back then, Wyman. Working in the family restaurants or helping out the family restaurants.
Yes, you're starting to date us. But, and you started after growing up in Roseville. You went to Roseville High School?
Actually, I went to private school. I went to St. Odelia Catholic grade school over in Shoreview. And then I went to Hill Murray High School, which is a Catholic school on the east side.
Oh, yeah. They used to be in competition with Cretan and
Right.
St.
Yeah,
Thomas,
all that. So yeah,
Catholic.
my older brothers had went there. My parents really liked it, and I don't know, maybe they figured I need a little bit more discipline than the public schools were going to give me. So it was great. It was a great experience.
And
So.
they have always have a great hockey program out of Hill
Yes.
Murray.
Yeah, and I was fortunate when I was there. I was on the dance team, and so we got to go to all the high school hockey tournaments and football tournaments and all that kind of stuff. It was great.
Did you know? I think Tony Cyril went there. Did you ever know Tony?
I don't
Cyril?
know that name. No.
He is an insurance agent now.
Okay,
and
he might be
was
a little
in
bit younger
Roseville.
or something. Or,
Yeah. And you started after all that. You started Stefani Havel, sales strategist, founder and sales strategy network.
Yes.
And with that, you do a lot of coaching.
Yeah, it's just sales. So my background is really corporate in sales and leadership. I was in corporate America for 25 years. And like many people, unfortunately, nowadays, the company was reorganizing and my job was eliminated. But I just decided that time, I came from entrepreneurial background, much like you. I grew up in a family of owning business. My mom owned a beauty salon. My uncle, obviously owned companies. And so I just decided, I was done with corporate. It was great. I had a great career. I was very successful. And so I just decided to take all those traits and skills that I learned in corporate and over the years working for my family and transfer that into my own business. So teaching sales strategies, whether it's an individual business owner, like in, the entrepreneurs, or maybe somebody who's like has a small to medium sized business and just, it's kind of maybe they really don't have a sales and leadership development department. But obviously sales, we know that as the foundation for everything, right? If we don't have sales, we don't need an operations team or a plant or processing or anything else if we don't have sales. So that's really where my sweet spot is that small to mid-sized company that just really has a great foundation, but now really wants to grow, or maybe they're growing their sales team and those people need some sales skills or leadership skills is really where I can help out.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about that in our our talks before about like we're actually all salespeople, especially if you're a smaller company.
Right.
You have to be able to sell, whether it's yourself or even everybody's sales. Like even you got to sell to your kids, right? Or you got to sell to your
Sell to your
significant other.
families.
Exactly.
Yes, I just did a LinkedIn post about that. Is you go on vacation, you have to sell your family on where are we going to go on vacation, where are we going to go out to eat, what time should we leave, how should we get there, what are we going to pack, what activities are we going to do, right? And if you want to kind of get your way, you got to do a little bit of selling. So,
do you think also selling is like not accepting no until it's a no?
Well, I look at it as really just providing a value. I think a lot of people that I talk to, Wyman, they're like the business owners. I always hear, I hate sales. I don't want to be sales. I don't want to be pushy. So, when you say, keep talking until they get a no, I think it comes from, the product or service that you offer has value. And so that you can provide value to people. And so you want to just keep talking to them and presenting them, but in a way that resonates with them. So, another thing, how I teach on my sales is my foundation of sales is built on the DISC framework, the DISC. And I think you said you use it here at Twin Cities Heating and Air, right? You've taken that DISC assessment?
We do. We have our, we haven't done it in a while, but I try and get every employee to do it because actually we can get their styles and their personality and actually work with them at a higher level.
Right. Yeah, that's so great. I mean, and way to go for you, for Twin Cities Heating and Air, to be investing in your employees, to build a culture, right, of workplace and sales. And so, yeah, it's something that they like and they want to be persistent with the customers until they get a yes. But it's because they see the value in the company, right? They know what Twin Cities Heating and Air stands for, what you're all about. And so, yeah, so long answer to your short question, right? Why do you keep getting sales until they say yes? But it's because if you're passionate about your product or service, and that's where what I teach people is a lot of people lack that. They think they're being salesy or pushy, and they don't realize that it's not when you really have a valuable product and you truly believe you can help the person.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel like a good I always feel like the best salespeople are actually little kids because they'll keep pushing, even if you tell them no. They don't take no
Right.
for an answer. They keep coming back
because they
for
know
more.
what they want. They know what they, or what is the old adage? I forget who said it. You give people what they want and sell them what they need, right? The little kids, they know they want it, they need it, right?
So we're learning when they're young, and they know how to adjust, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they start negotiating. Like if we can do that, I'll do this. I'll mow your yard.
Right.
I think my son, who's behind the camera, once said, if we get that skateboard ramp, I'll mow the yard for like 2 years or for the rest of my life, right? Like they know how to negotiate.
Yeah.
And the key to that is, and it's not always the same, but they always take no for an answer. They don't take no for an answer.
Right. Well, and I think, you and I learned that growing up in family businesses. As a young kid, I was going to the farmer's market with my grandpa. My grandpa, Dave Fratellone, is a staple at the St. Paul Farmer's Market. His name is on the wall and the plaque and all the dedications to him. And I didn't want to go home with a truck full of vegetables. So people, can you give me 6 peppers for $1 instead of 5? Sure. Let's go. Always negotiate. Okay. Only if you buy a bushel of tomatoes or something like that, then we'll throw something in. So I learned negotiation skills also as a kid, but having to work in our family business.
And a big one I think we learn in sales too is not always completely dropping the price every time. It's what they always want, but it's giving them added value, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Most people don't buy on price. Of course, there's always that margin of people that will. But it's, again, what do they want, but what do they really need, right? Selling them what they want. They want the best product or program, but what they need, like when I talk to people, I just need to make more money. I need to make more commissions. Okay, well, what you really need is a better sales process, or a better system or better scripts so that you can make the more money that you want, right? So we tell them what do they want, but what they really need is, and that's true, another thing really what I help people with.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you're a small business, you always forget like processes, right? Because the processes when you're smaller, you're like, by yourself or 2 people, it's like the processes in my head. It's not written down, and it's hard to scale from there. Being a business strategist, it's so important to have processes in place. But I think when you're just smaller, you just don't think about
they're wearing a bunch of hats, and that's why really it's most people in businesses, they start a business because they have a passion around that business, around that item or that product or service. But then what they're missing, where I come in, is they're missing that sales piece. They don't know how to show that value to their clients, to the people that really need it, or maybe the people that want it. So that's where I really try to help them. And that's where, the strategist, right? What are some strategies that we can get to your customers who have the pain for the problem that you solve?
Yeah. Good stuff right there. And then, and from talking to you from before too, you not just only dig into the sales portion of companies, you really dig into leadership and culture. And one of the things that you gave me was a little tidbit of information that I thought was really interesting. And if you can elaborate on that, you said that 86% of people leave managers and not companies. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's astonishing statistic, isn't it? What was it, 86%?
Yep, 86%
leave a manager over a company. It doesn't matter the salary. You could have the best, greatest salary, benefits, perks, all that kind of stuff. But if there's a toxic environment or a toxic leadership, that employee doesn't care. They would much rather have that peace of mind, be appreciated. The number 3 things that people want in any job is to feel seen, valued, and heard. And so that's where, when I talk about the DISC behavior model, it's really critical for leaders to understand that. And oftentimes what I see is leaders in companies, they get promoted because they were really good at sales. So now, let's make them a sales manager. Okay. Well, just because the best salesperson doesn't mean they have the best management skills. And I think we even talked about that, right? Like in football, like, okay, Tom Brady's like an amazing, quarterback. Would he really be the best head coach? Maybe not. He's got great football skills and communication skills in his part of the game, but I don't know that he'd really be the best coach or general manager for the team. So that's where sometimes companies or leaders struggle, is because, they're not on the right seat on the bus. And so I love that you talk about doing the DISC assessment for your team when you onboard them, because you want to make sure they're put in the right place. If you have somebody that's like myself, a very high energy, charismatic, social person, and you put me in the back office doing data and scripts and spreadsheets, poke two needles in my eyes. I don't want to do it. Right. And so then I might end up leaving, right? Because I'm not going to feel valued, because you don't really see, I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. I don't feel valued, because I want to be out there. I want to be out there on the streets, selling with everybody. Even like we talked to Dan, your son, he said, he's doing the tech guy, but what he really loves is, doing this kind of stuff, podcasting. So that's where I think a lot of companies have that miss in their leaders, is they don't know how to communicate to their employees in a way that resonates with them. They don't have that culture of communication at their company. And that's what causes people to leave, is they're not on that right seat on the bus, or they don't feel seen, valued, and heard by their manager. And the company, is missing it. It just continues to miss the boat, is what I see. So I love it when I hear companies like yourself, like Twin Cities, that brings in the DISC and really values that tool to help create a really good workplace culture so they don't leave.
Wow, that's some good stuff that you're feeding us right now. That's
Thank
fantastic.
you. Yeah.
And I think every company needs, like, just because you're a high I and a high D, you actually need people that are high C's and high S's. And for our audience listening out there that isn't sure what the DISC is, I believe it's, and you can help me with this, the high I is the what is that, the
influencer. So the D,
influencer,
So a D is what we call like a dominator driver. These people are very straight and to the point. So in an office setting or a meeting setting, sometimes I explain it like the D is just going to walk into a meeting and be like, all right, hey everybody, what's going on? Let's go. Let's get this meeting done. What time am I going to get out of here? Because I got an appointment to get to. That's your high D. Then you have the high I, like myself. We walk in. Hi, everybody. What'd you guys do this weekend? What do we got going on? We got to make sure everybody knows we're there. And then the S people, they're more steady and loyal and cautious. They just want to make sure that everybody gets along. They want to make sure that everybody in the meeting has a chance to speak. Everybody gets their fair turn. And then the C style is what we call conscientious or compliant. They are the ones that are going to be overlooking the agenda. They're going to make sure that every item on the agenda is covered. If there's a change in the policy or a program, they want to see why. They want to see the data, the facts, the reasoning behind it. And then oftentimes those people don't speak up in meetings because they take a little bit more time to process the information. But it takes all four people to get a project off the ground. The D is going to be like, all right, let's go. Let's get this project going. The I is going to get everybody excited about it. The S is going to make sure that's steady, that everybody's getting along. And the C is just going to make sure, because those D's and I's that are out there, they're making too many decisions too fast. And so the C is going to be like, okay, slow your roll, everybody. Let's make sure. So I really appreciate those people because they pay extreme attention to detail. But they also need people like me, because sometimes they can suffer from analysis paralysis. They're too into the weeds, studying the graphs and the charts, and, ooh, what if this one thing is off? Where my style and the D were like, oh, whatever, we'll figure it out later. Let's just go, right? Let's just get it done. But so you got to appreciate it. So you're right. Again, why it's so important. I'm such a believer in the DISC behavior model. There's a lot of psychology behind it, but it's so important to understand what people's strengths are. And then as a leader, as a company owner, leverage those people's strengths. You might have somebody who's just chomping at the bit, to get out there, but they're not saying anything, right? Because they're kind of still thinking about it, but they have some really great ideas. But they're never given a chance to share it because that high D, that D or I manager is like, okay, let's go wrap it up. And the S and the C are still thinking about it. And then they never get a chance to speak up. So it's really important to really, as a leader and a company, to take on a model like DISC or there's other ones out there. Of course, I'm just favorable to DISC, right? And maybe you are too, because you know it.
I feel like DISC is a little more simpler.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you and I like DISC not because we're simple people. It's just like we're driven. We're more driven, and we're very influencers, right? And just keeping it simple is our communication style. At least we try to, right? Because if we weren't like simple, keeping it simple, we'd be high C's. The funny thing I feel like is sometimes the myth is like, if you're not a high D or a high I, you can't be a leader. And I've learned that you actually can. Your high C's are actually some of your better leaders because they really can take the company in the right direction.
Correct.
But what happens with high C's is that they kind of, and even high D's, right? But we'll use an example of a high C. They'll push out D's and I's when you need them in your company because they're looking at them and go, man, those guys are nuts. How are we going to do all that stuff that they just said, right? Like,
yes.
I got to get rid of him. He's just way too over the top. He's got too many big dreams, right?
Right.
And opposite way, right? Being a higher D or a higher I, like I have a higher I with D in it. And, I'm the one that walks in the room and goes, okay, this is what we're going to do. This, that, right?
Yeah.
And our controller, and even my son to a certain extent, who's behind the camera, is more of a high C. And they're just like, oh my goodness, what is he thinking? And the way they've learned, I think, from that DISC program was let the D and the I spit it out. Because the D is definitely opposite of a high C, right?
Yes.
Once they spit out what they're thinking, come back to the next day and say, hey, are we really going to do all that stuff that you talked about? And I bet you, and it's happened to me, we're like, what are you, nuts? That ain't going to work. I gave it a little thought now.
Yeah. So you've even seen it play out in your own company.
Yeah.
In your leadership team.
So it's really important. And you have all sorts of other programs too. I think there's Kobe assessment. There's
Strength Finders, from Myers-Briggs was
yeah. So there's a lot of them out there. But if you use one, they get pretty close. But highly recommend any business owner to start at least one of them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, and I think part of it leads into it does require individualizing and understanding the communication tailored to each employee's motivation needs, right? The one thing that I feel like we've been challenged more in this day and age, especially with COVID and the younger generation, the generational shifts, right? The young employees, they sometimes have to value the understanding of what they're doing and why they're doing. Otherwise, they leave if they're not engaged. And a lot of them, it's not about the money for them because I've noticed,
right?
Even if you give somebody a $4 an hour raise or something like that, yeah, it'll keep them around for another 2, maybe 3 pay periods. But after that, your issues are still there.
Right.
And they'll leave. You want to elaborate a little more on, because we talked about that.
Yeah, I think just the company culture. And I think a lot of companies are even realizing in their communication with this return to office and return to work. It's just, they're throwing out these blanket statements and really not telling the employees why is important. Why do we need to return to work? Is it so that you can keep eyes on me? What is your belief behind it? Do you believe that we're returning to the office because we believe in collaboration, because we believe in efficiencies? What is it? Help the companies and employees understand. And that's, especially when you get into larger companies, this is where they falter. The senior leadership talks about it and then it gets trickled down, leader by leader by leader. And by the time it gets to the frontline employee, the message is lost. So that's why it's really important to understand your culture and understand that people do receive information differently. And just like you said, like with your family, with your kids, right? You might have one kid that needs to have everything laid out the night before, their books, their outfits and everything, and get to bed early and know what they're having for breakfast and know what time the bus is coming, to the kid who wakes up 2 minutes before the bus is coming, throws on a tutu and a baseball hat and mismatched shoes and out the door, and they don't care. And then, why are you like this and why are you? Because they're just wired differently. So I think, it just goes back to, as a leader, or, even just in sales, as a sales professional, you need to understand that your clients buy differently. And this is something that I had to learn too. I failed at it early in my sales career because, like kind of what you mentioned with my high energy personality, that's just how I sold to everybody. And I'd get them all excited. And I'd sometimes would have people and they'd be like, okay, they'd just be sitting looking at me and nodding. And I'd be like, what's their problem? They're boring. Ugh, they're not going to buy anyways because they didn't have me ask me questions. They just acted uninterested. So I'm not even going to follow up with that person. That was a big mistake on my part. I probably lost a lot of clients back then because I didn't realize that the reason why they were quiet was because they just needed some time to think about things. And while they might have appreciated my high energy, They might have also not maybe respected me and thinking, gosh, you know what? She talks really fast and she's going over this stuff. Does she even know? Is she even paying attention to the details? Which I was. I worked in mortgage and finance and I knew all the details. But because it didn't matter to me, that's not how I buy things. I didn't pay that much attention to it. So when I started learning the disc, it's been over 15 years now. And when I was in mortgage, we worked with a lot of engineers. My team was assigned a lot of engineers, scientists, pilots, aviation, because we were able to communicate with them. We knew that they wanted all this data. So we would do group trainings every week with my team, and we would go through it and we'd role play. This is how we have to talk to this group of these people that work at this company, because they're all mostly high C's. So we can bring high energy, but you better have all the data, all the research, all the information, get it to them. So as a salesperson, not only for company culture, but if you're in sales and you're wondering why you're getting ghosted or crickets. Dan, can you cue the cricket sign? Cricket sound? Reek, reek, reek. People wonder why they're getting ghosted or why they're hearing crickets, because they're not communicating. They're not communicating with the customer in a way that they're hearing it. And that goes for companies and leadership as well. When they're rolling out changes or processes or systems, they're not delivering in a way that's hitting the mark with everybody in the company. And back to that quote you said earlier, that's why 86% of people would say, yes, I will leave a manager over my company in a heartbeat.
It's really about, like anything else, reading the room, reading your team.
Yeah, say that again.
Reading the room, reading your customer when they're starting to gloss over because you're giving all the technical information. I think you better start jumping into a story that's relatable to them, right? Because they want to hear stories. They don't want to hear like the technical part.
Yeah. Well, like I'm sure if you're going into somebody's house, right, and their air conditioning is broken down, it's 100-degree heat out or whatever, and the tech person's talking about, this is 10-year warranty and it has this kind of control. I don't care. Is it just going to cool my house and get me cooled off right now? That's all I want, right?
And you and I are like that.
Yeah.
The Heidi, and actually we are both pretty high eyes, so I just know we have that same cut of how we are. We sometimes like to talk just to hear ourselves talk. So the sales guy, even if they're high eye, they should probably look at it and go, let's just let them talk.
Right. Yes. Let the customer think it through. Take a step back a little bit. Let them read the small print. Sometimes people take offense to that. People of our style, they think, are they questioning me? Why? Oh gosh, why they got to sit and look through things? Ask them, is there anything that I can support you with? Tell me what you're thinking here. What are your thoughts on this? Is there any section that you want me to elaborate or make more clear for you? Let me know how I can clarify things for you. Clarity is such a great word. I love clarity. Yeah. That's really important in sales. When reading the room, right? Read your customer. If you're not vibing with them, it's up to you as a salesperson to adapt your behavior skills, to adapt your style to them. Yeah. Not think, well, they don't like how I'm selling, or they think they got to push harder. Like, okay, then they go to the price, right? Well, we could lower the price, or, we got to do this. I saw that all the time in mortgage. Oh, we got to lower our rates. Our fees are too high. My employees had all kinds of excuses. And most of the time it came down to objections are a lack of knowledge. That's really what all objections are coming down to, is the customer just does not have enough information. And that's why they're objecting to your offer. It's because they don't have enough information to make an informed decision.
Yeah, and with the desk assessment, that helps because they might not be looking for the same information that you think is important.
Right.
You and I being high eyes, I feel like, don't give us all the mumble jumble of the data and everything.
Right.
That
do you want to know how many CPUs and is that even a thing in our
Exactly.
Right.
I don't care what the voltage is. I don't care what the exact efficiency is. Does it save me money on my engine? Perfect. Let's go. Tell me a story. That's what I want to hear.
Right. Yeah.
As high eyes, right? But if I'm a high C and you read that, sometimes it's basically going, it's got 87%, 95% efficient, 95.6. They even want down to the detail, right?
Yes, they do.
And this one only does 96.2, and they want the details.
Yeah.
And if you don't give them that as a salesperson, and you're high eye, and you're not giving that to them because you're the life of the party, they're like, oh my gosh. And if you are a high C and you give high eyes that kind of information, they're just like, their eyes are glossing
right
over.
I'm just like, right, just put it in for me, or just install it, would you? But yeah, you're right. And that's where, again, reading the room, if you are in sales, that's why I'm such a firm believer in the DISC assessment. If anything, just it's so important to know your style. So how you sell to other people, like you said, you get it. You 100% get it, Wyman, right? You know you're high energy, but you know that there's people, they want to know what the energy efficiency is. And sometimes they will think that the I person, in sales, we talk about we want to do business with somebody we know, like, and trust. So how do you build that trust is a big question that I get from people is, okay, they know me, they referred to me by their neighbor, and my neighbor liked me, so naturally they'll like me. But how do you build that trust? And that's where that communication, the DISC piece comes in, is because that the trust factor, when you start asking the questions, finding how they respond, what's important to them, and then answering those questions. If they say, well, is this going to save me on my energy bill? And what, how efficient is it? Ding, ding, ding. If you know DISC, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, I better slow down, Mr. High I or Miss High I. And, and give them the facts. Say, let me get out my data sheet here, right? If they say, I just wanted to be cooled off and, I got a party this weekend, can you get it done? That's a high I. Save the spreadsheet, save the efficiency things. We don't need it, right? I just want to know, too, is the unit going to look nice in my yard and match my hydrangeas? I don't.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So.
And there's so much. This is just a little portion of sales. So
right.
What you do does make a difference in helping these companies. The other thing we talked about, the other thing that we sometimes forget is like, and you wanted me to give you a little more because I talked about that a little bit, but like you can only choose 2 of the 3 things in most purchases, right? It's got to be either fast, cheap, or quality, right?
Right.
And quality, right? You can always get those 2, but you usually can't get all 3 at the same time.
Right.
So that's part of the salesmanship too, of figuring that out, right?
Yeah. Well, even talk, really give us an example about how you use that in your company. So how would you sell, based off of those 3 things, how would you sell that?
Yeah, a very good question, because like we certainly can do it fast, but cheap, but is it going to be quality? And there's companies that will do that. We'll do it fast, we'll do it cheap, but the quality gets kind of missed there, right?
It's not going to last me for a long time. So maybe I don't care about quality, but no, I'm going to live in this house for a long time, so I want it quality, and it's 100 degrees out, and I want it fast.
Yes, yeah.
So then what?
So then here's the price.
It's not going to be cheap.
I'm going to do a great job for you. Our guys are going to spend a little extra time making sure we're not cutting corners, and then you can also choose fast and quality, right? And that's what we kind of talked about. It's not going to be cheap. Or we can do quality and cheap. That's fine. But I may need to do it as a back burner job if you're not in a hurry, and I can get my guys out there, as filler work, hey, I can give you a better price on that. I mean, as business owners, we kind of know, like, what happens first and what's really priority. And if the customer is screaming for that demand, you got to make sure your price is there.
Right.
And I'm not saying gouge people. I'm just saying what you can handle has to be part of your budget on what you can get in for that,
right?
That value.
Yeah, I feel like you think, Wyman? I think that could be like a whole podcast. The Trinity, right? The fast, quality, and cheap.
Yeah,
right. Because there's so many instances, and I think again, if you're a salesperson and you're listening to this, so many. Again, it goes back to right. I don't want to be pushy. It goes back to, sales bottom line is about asking better questions, right? And how do we ask the better questions too is understanding, again, that DISC behavior style. I know I keep talking about it because I'm so passionate about it, but when you can ask those better questions and then understand how they respond. But then that third thing I would throw in there is when you're sitting down with somebody and ask them, say, okay, you can choose 2 of these 3, fast, cheap, or quality. Tell me what is, they're going to say, well, I want it all. Okay, well, we can't. This is a 2-legged stool. Yeah,
it's really hard to do all 3 in all reality. You
exactly.
You can't.
So I want you to pick 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
And just, give them those examples, like you said. So like in sales, I talked to somebody. So for an example with my company, so fast, cheap, and quality, right? I'm on the brink of losing my job, right? I'm not making commissions. I'm not bringing in money. I'm struggling to pay my bills. I need to get my, numbers up, my quota up fast. Okay. And I need to make sure that the customers stay. And I don't want people buying and then, returning the products or coming back to me. Okay. So you need quality. Okay, well, I'm not cheap. I'm not the cheapest coach out there. You can go buy some online program or whatever, or hire somebody, who's turned a business coach, because they just needed a side hustle, right? And hope that they train you. So they might be cheaper, but they're not going to get you to where you need to go fast, and they're not going to get you the quality of sales training that you need. So I think it really works for any industry. I can do it cheap. I can meet with you maybe once every 2 months, or throw you in a group program online. I saw something, we do email coaching. Email coaching? Like, okay, well, maybe that's a way it's going to be cheap,
But is there quality to
exactly.
it?
Then you're going to, sure, you can get it
question.
fast because you're going to get it emailed to you, and it's going to be cheap because it's just via email. But what kind of quality of training are you really going to get? How are you really going to improve your sales skills and find out what's not working for you if you're just reading emails? So, I love that. I forgot we talked about that. So fast, quality, and cheap.
Yeah. And amazingly enough, it's one of those things where there's so many facets of selling. And I think by you really digging down into it, especially for business owners, because a lot of business owners do their thing really well.
Right.
And it may not be sales. It's what they do technically. And I have to admit, I haven't, since I've built the company where it's at, I haven't done an install or a service call in a long time. I'm not good at that anymore. But my job is to be a better leader, right? And understand how the disc works and how to keep my guys rallied.
Yeah, and you should, right? And employing people that are, like you said it, hiring the right people. That's why, I commend you for having DISC as a culture, as a foundation, the culture of your company. So when somebody's onboarded, so that manager knows, right? So your leadership team knows what kind of employees they're bringing in, and are they the right fit in the job? Maybe you got somebody who's in sales who would be better off in operations, or maybe you have a tech who would be better at sales. Like every time they go to an install, they're getting 3 and 4 referrals from them. Like, whoa, maybe our tech guy should be our sales guy, and the sales guy should be in tech, and whatever. So yeah, it's a really, important thing to think about. And one quick example is one of my clients owns a moving company. And she's owned it for 19 years. And she heard me I gave a presentation at a networking group. And she came up to me and she's like, oh my God, I need you. I hate sales. And I go and talk to these people and I present my offer, but nobody's buying. And they all tell me it's off of price. And I told this person, I said, it's not always price, right? Just exactly what we talked about. So she hired me to coach her and train her because she really wanted to grow her business. It was faltering. She wanted to do 6 to 8 moves a month. She was doing about 1 or 2. And so I had her take the DISC assessment. We went through it. I really got her some solid, we spent time role playing. She really understood the DISC behavior styles. I started giving her some phrases and scripting, if you will, to go to her next appointments. And within 6 months, her business has doubled. And she is now consistently doing 6 to 8 moves a month. And she said, I love it. I'm more confident. She said, I don't feel pushy or sales in it. She goes, I don't hate sales because I'm not selling. She's offering the value. She's finding out what's important to the clients, asking the better questions, and then offering the solutions, right? She's finding out what is their pain. Right? What is their pain in moving? Do they need it fast? Do they need it quality? Do they need a floor plan? Do they need to make sure everything's bubble wrapped? Or is it really price, right? If it's price, fine. She can do that, but you're not going to get all of her floor plans and all the logistics, and you're going to have to get on her calendar in 2 months. Well, no, mom needs to move right now. Okay, and we need it cheap. Fine, we'll just throw it all in the back of the truck. No, we're going to bubble, right? We're not going to bubble wrap it then and do the floor plans. So, so those just like an example of how I can really help people, how I strategize is look at your company, doesn't matter what industry. Sales is sales. And by leveraging my skills, what I've been doing for 25 years, helping teams, helping individuals grow their business. But everybody's a little different. But the bottom line is it comes down to communication and asking better questions.
Wow, all great stuff. And with that, I think we're going to go into a break.
Okay.
All right, we'll be back. Anoka Meals on Wheels, a nonprofit organization that I proudly support, delivers more than just nutritious meals to seniors in our community. They deliver connection, care, and peace of mind. Their volunteers don't just drop off food, they check in, share a smile, and ensure our neighbors know they're not forgotten. I know because I am one of those volunteer drivers. Help us keep serving those who need it most. Visit mowanoka.org to volunteer, donate, or learn more about Anoka Meals on Wheels, nourishing bodies and spirits one meal at a time. Tired of lugging heavy bags of water softener salt from the store? Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric now delivers premium water softener salt right to your home in returnable, reusable 20-pound containers to go green and light enough to save you from injury. Serving the north suburbs, we're your neighbors who know how hard our water is. No more running out of salt and dealing with spotty dishes and stiff laundry. Quality salt, reliable delivery, local service you can trust. Because at Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric, we don't just keep your home comfortable, we keep your water soft and your life easy. Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric, now with water softener salt delivery. Call today or visit us online. And we are back again with Stefani Havel of Stefani Havel is a coaching strategist, sales strategist, and of Strategy
Sales
Network.
Strategy Network. Yep.
Ooh, that's a mouthful. Sales Strategy Network. Stefani Havel, Sales Strategy Network.
Correct.
Perfect. And so this is the part of the meeting or our podcast where I will show you a picture and you can tell me a little more and I'll tell you why I kind of picked it.
Okay.
I actually pulled this off the internet on you. I found it on the internet. I know, right? And for you audiences listening out there, this was Stefani, a younger Stefani with a cool background because it's water. And tell us a little more about water, because I know water is a big thing for you.
It is.
And your water, like you...
I'm part of Bald Eagle water ski shows.
Yes.
But I'm the MC for the water ski show. So I love water and I love water skiing, but I'm the MC for the show.
So where was this taken?
So that's actually great. That was actually taken in Sicily.
Oh,
so
awesome.
You started in the talk at the beginning of the show that I'm an Italian.
Yeah.
My mom was an Italian immigrant, my grandmother. So I still have family and relatives over in Sicily. So I was so fortunate. That was in 2015. No, let's see. Yeah, 2015. One of my cousins was getting married, and so I went to Sicily for the first time with all my cousins. And my mom and my grandma both passed away, but I was really fortunate to go to see where they lived, where my grandma lived and raised my mom as a young girl. And it was so fun because people actually really remembered my mom because she had gone back there over the years to go back and visit. She left when she was 8 years old. And because her father, my grandma's husband, had passed away, and so they wanted to move to America. But my mom always continued to go back and visit, and everybody was just so excited to meet me because they, remembered my mom. So yeah, that was, thank you for picturing it. It brings back great memories of.
And basically, we're kind of a melting pot here. Anyways, I feel the same way with when my dad went back to China with us back in the late 80s, and we went to the old village that he kind of grew up in. And he was like a king there because it's, Zhuang in Chinese, right?
Right.
He left here when he was a little kid. Now he's made in the United States.
Yes,
right?
they really value that.
They do. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
The different cultures. So the next one is another water.
Another
picture.
one on water.
Yes. I just figured we'd bring in that.
Keep bringing the water. Yeah.
Yes.
That one was, and actually I was just there this weekend on the St. Croix River. So my birthday's in July. I celebrate my birthday the whole month of July. And I just love going boating. I have a lot of friends, obviously being on a water ski team, people that have boats. And so, so that's fun. So I actually was really in that same place this past weekend on my birthday, boating down the St. Croix with some friends. And it was great.
Awesome. And, one of the things that I know this is kind of the going away from what we're talking about is the one thing I do admire about you, not only the water skiing and the water stuff, is you volunteer at a lot of different places. You have a passion for volunteering, and one of them is Meals on Wheels. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's one that we definitely need to keep in place and really help that community,
right?
Especially after COVID and
Yeah,
they
I
get to be
really,
members.
so just, wrapping up with the water ski shows. I've been volunteering with the water ski team for 31 years. So I love it. I love performing and being able to, bring the fun and bring the shows to the people in the city of Centerville. It's Bald Eagle Water Ski Shows in Centerville. But then, so I'm currently on the board of directors for the Metro North Chamber. And through that, I've learned about other organizations. And so through the Metro North Chamber, I learned about Meals on Wheels. And they were looking to expand their board. And I really didn't know anything about it. I've never had to use their services or really know anybody that used their services. But like you, I think, gosh, what a great need for people. And so then they asked me to be on the board. And that's when I really learned a lot more about Meals on Wheels and just how important it is and what they do, and they're always same thing. If you're looking for volunteers, I feel really fortunate for the life that I have and the ability that I have to just get in my car and go drive to a restaurant or just go drive to the grocery store if I need food or if I'm hungry, or get DoorDash, right? Yeah. And a lot of these people don't have that luxury. So that's why I'm really passionate about just taking the ability that I have and giving that to other people for what they can't do.
I need to make it intentional. I have driven Meals on Wheels maybe 5-6 times in the last year, but I think I need to put on my calendar and be intentional about it.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun. Do it with a friend. People are like, well, I don't know. You know what? Get a coworker. I can't imagine there is an employer out there who would tell their employees, no, I don't want you to go serve the community today. Let the people go hungry. Right? I mean, what a great way to start a Monday.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, just get out there, grab a coworker. Let's go grab your own lunch. Eat, take the luxury of being able to eat in your car, right? A fast food lunch, or maybe you stop for lunch after you've done your deliveries. But it really is great, and they always need volunteers to help drive.
And it just reminds me of having a sense of gratitude.
Yes.
When you talk to these people, like someone will talk to you for a while, like they want you to stay, but you got a schedule to stay on.
Right.
But it's just such. It feels good to be able to do that.
And that visit, I mean, people get, I can tell you as a single person, I mean, sometimes I get lonely, I get busy, but not everybody, the introverts are like, oh, I don't need to talk to people. Yes, even introverts need people.
That's
so
true.
Yeah, it's great to get out and visit those people.
Yeah, and then I do have 2 more pictures for
Okay.
you.
Oh,
this
shoot.
one,
okay,
it might surprise you, and you can give me a little description of it.
Okay, so they're proof that my true blonde hair, blue eyes, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was me in kindergarten.
That was a kindergarten picture?
Kindergarten.
As you get older, you can't tell ages, right? I'm looking at this picture, I'm like, 3rd grade.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But I'm not that good. Guys aren't as good at telling ages.
Yeah, I was in kindergarten. So, the long
That's
blonde
awesome.
hair. And
in Roseville.
yes, right.
Nice.
My mom worked in the beauty salon, so I always had the styled hair.
Nice. And then the last one, it's a headshot from probably around 2000.
I don't even know, really. Yeah,
That's what I got these off of your Facebook. I
Yeah,
had
the
to
old
dig
classic
deep.
shots with the head tilt, and again, okay, I still got the blonde, still wearing my hair the same too. Yeah, that was for when I worked at TCF Bank, which is now Huntington Bank.
Okay.
I was on their Leaders Club. I was in one of the top managers in the company, and so they did headshots for us, and we got to have our pictures up on the corporate offices. When you walk down the hall to the CEO, CFO offices, you got to have your picture hanging on the wall for the year. So whether, good thing nobody ever drew a mustache on it or threw darts at it. But
I was actually really searching hard for a glamour shots photo of you. Did you do glamour shots?
No,
back in the
I
day when
didn't.
it was
What I grew up in, like I
thing?
said, no, because I grew up in a beauty parlor, right? So that's why I said, people have always asked me like all the sparkles, the jewelry and everything like that. I mean, I was kind of my mom's guinea pig. I had long hair when I was a kid, and then Dorothy Hamill, remember the ice skater? She was really popular in the 70s. So my mom was like, oh, we have a lot of people requesting that haircut. Let me try it out on you. I was like, oh, okay. So she chopped off all my hair from, I used to hang down to my bottom, and all of a sudden I'm, in the pixie cut of Dorothy Hamill because she needed to learn how to do the cut and what it would look like on people. So
that's what happens with the kids.
Yeah,
Our kids
me and my sisters, my mom had to do perms. Both my brothers have pictures in their high school pictures with a perm, curly hair. My oldest brother looks like a Napoleon Dynamite from his high school picture because he had to have a perm. My mom wanted to see how perms looked on men. So so that's what my glamour shots really were, is my mom just testing out different hairstyles on us or hair colors.
Fantastic. Now, if you could go back in time, like you're completely different today from when you were back then.
Right.
What advice would you give that Stephanie
What a great question. Yeah. I love that you asked that, because it's funny that you say that, because as I was looking at that picture, I did have these flashbacks to when I worked in my corporate job. And I don't want to knock corporate America, because it was very good to me. I had a great run when I was with TCF Banker and Wells Fargo. And but it just, so I feel like part of me too lost my voice a little bit inside of corporate. And just, you see the way I look, the blonde hair, the sparkles, I always felt like, do I really fit in? And that's really what led me to start my own company, is because I love sales. I love teaching and leading people and sharing my stories, right? And so when I started my own company, that just gave me an opportunity, because when I was inside corporate, of course, I taught sales and training, and I was successful. My team was successful, but I had to do it in the company's way, the way the company wanted us to sell, and the way a company wanted us to do it. And so now, I guess what I give her is just be authentic, and whether you're in a corporate job or whatever you're doing, just be authentic to yourself and who you are. And that's how you'll be successful. And I really was authentic to myself, but there was times when I conformed because I had to, and I really wasn't happy. But I would just say, just stay true to your authentic self and be who you are, even if you are working that corporate job, because there's, good opportunities, you make good money and the benefits, but just don't feel like you have to lose yourself into that corporate box. You can still be who you are and your authentic self.
Yeah. It just made me think, like, there's a fine line to that too sometimes. Like, is your true self, like when you talk about disc, my true self isn't like the high the high C's, right? Like, I think I'm somewhat of a people pleaser, but if you told me to do details and write down a long rambling dissertation on something, I'd have a tough time. That's not me. But there's also a certain amount that you can play into that to help you get the sale. So is that still an authentic you? I think it is. Yeah,
because you are, and you bring up a great point. You're a blend of all four styles, because people will say, well, sometimes I'm like this. Of course, when I worked in corporate and finance, I had to channel my inner C, right? I had to do all the reports, the ROI, the graphs, the spreadsheets. But what it comes down to is, how do you truly feel? I didn't love it. My expense report I was always the last person to turn in my expense report, because I hated having to do all the details and, oh my gosh, to the cents, and how much tip did I leave and where did I go and how many miles to get there. Like, I hated doing expense reports because I didn't like all the details. And so could I do that? Of course. And did I have to be accurate on it? Of course. I did it. But it wasn't what I loved. I wouldn't have wanted a job in accounts payable reconciling expense reports. That would be somebody who would leave, leaves.
Just shoot me now.
Yeah, because if my boss kept saying, you're going to have to do the expense reports for everybody on the team. Oh, no, if you're going to make me do stuff and that's not really, instead of letting me out what I really want to do. So that's what I'm saying. Of course, you kind of have to conform.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to have my blonde hair and my sparkles and everything like that.
How come I get the feeling that, a little like me, if you had me do the expense reports, like, I'd rather lose money and not end up doing it? Because I'm sure I've lost a lot of money not doing my expense report.
Exactly. I can't find a receipt. Oh, forget it. Lunch was on
whatever.
Me. Yes. And there's other people like, are you kidding me? One time I had an employee, he was a very high C. There was a 2 cents deduction on his paycheck, and he had me call HR, and I had to research why they deducted 2 cents out of his paycheck. Gosh. And I was like, I
would have just pulled out 2 cents out of my pocket and said, here you go.
But it wasn't,
I'll give you a raise.
It wasn't even about, obviously it wasn't about the money, but it was just, everything had to be, factual. He just wants. Yes, exactly.
Do high C and high S's fight themselves a little bit? Like, I don't want to bugger too much, but I want to find out where my 2 pennies went.
Yes, yeah. And so that's what I talk about. Sometimes they feel like they may not respect a high I person. The C might not have respect or trust. Yeah. When I talked about trust, the high C may not always trust the high I, because we're quick to make a decision, and they think that we haven't thought it through and we don't care.
Right.
We do, right? Like you said, I do care about getting my expense report done, but not to the point where I'm going to lose sleep over it and it's going to drive me crazy. Now, on the other side, the C person, they might spend, 4 hours of their day analyzing over their expense report, trying to find a missing 5 cents, where you and I don't care, just turn it in and be done with it. Where, so that's why I said sometimes they drive us a little crazy too, because they get so caught up in the minutia and the details that they're wasting time on other valuable things. Yeah. So that's where we just learned. So my assistant, was a very high C. And when I learned, I called HR and I'm like, can my assistant actually do my expense report? They're like, yeah, as long as, it's like, oh, that was like one of the best days ever. Yeah. And I just hand her a pile of receipts and she would do it. And she'd call me and she's like, okay, who was at this lunch with you? And I was like, okay, I just talked to her over the phone. Like, yeah. Oh yeah. I was with Mary and Wyman and Dan and we went to, La Casitas or whatever. And she's like, okay. And she got it all done, taken care of for me. So
the one line that always runs in my head as a high I and high D is keep up. Come on, just keep up with me.
That's when I say chop chop. Yeah, if anybody's listening to this and anybody knows me, all of my past employees over the 25 years in corporate, that's if they said what would 2 words that describe Stefani, they'd say chop chop.
Let's just get it done.
Yes.
The authentic self is fantastic. And one of the questions that I always love asking our guests is, who is someone you'd love to see or hear on this podcast and why?
Yeah, great question, Wyman. The name, I can get you the name, but the Quick Trip family, the gas stations, the Quick Trip with the K. I've had the pleasure of hearing both of them speak to 2 of the children that are in the family at Metro North Chamber events. And it was so fascinating. I never really paid much attention to where I got gas. I would just go where it's convenient. Because I heard their presentation, I specifically go out of my way to go to a Quick Trip gas station. It's still a family owned. They're out of Wisconsin. And so just the Quick Trip family, they have a couple of spokespeople in their family, but I will get you their contact information. They're phenomenal. Their story is so great of how it was started, their philosophy. And one thing they talk about it, and it is true. When you go into Quick Trip, they always say, see you next time. Every time you leave. So all the cashiers always say that is see you next time. And they just talked about how that was like a little blurb in their company culture. And they really value their employees being again, kind of like us, that's a family owned business. Wow. The dad, the sons, the sisters, the daughters, are all involved in the leadership, and the way they train their employees and treat their employees was just really phenomenal. So check out Quick Trip. I'll get you the information, but
I'll see if I can get them on. That'd be great, because I love that when you do go in there, they say, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
The one thing we do is on every phone call we answer, it's, how can I make a difference for you today? Because it's feel the difference as part of our tagline.
Awesome. That's how you answer the phone? How can we make a difference for you today?
Part of it, yeah. So it's kind of, this is Wyman, Twin City Heating and Electric. This is Wyman. How can I make a difference for you today?
I love that.
That's kind of how we make sure that we're a little bit different, and, it catches them off guard rather than Twin City Heating and Air, how may I help you?
Right. Yeah. I love that.
It makes it a little different. So, yeah, we'll see if I can get them on the show. That'd be fantastic. One of their spokespeople. So
okay.
I do remember I missed that they spoke at the chamber, and I missed that one.
Yes, 2 different times. So it's a good one. So get them on your show, then your listeners can hear their story.
I would love to. And their chicken, I've heard how they do their chicken.
Chicken salad is the best.
Chicken salad, even their fried chicken, they have a process, and those guys go through a 2-week training or something like that.
They have like their own bakery,
yes.
And they have the bananas. They're known for their bananas. And they tell the whole story all behind it on how it all came about. So definitely get them on your show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. We are coming to the end of our show here, and I do have a little gift for you.
Oh, aren't you sweet?
For being on the program.
Wow.
It is, I'm going to start with this, and this is just a little thank you for being on the show.
Oh,
it's
look
not
at that.
a huge
The thumbs
trophy,
up.
but we really appreciate
you have it
being on our
engraved with
show.
my name and everything. Number 9.
Yeah, it just has the print on it.
I love it.
And then I love how when we talk, you're such a difference maker. So put that on your desk
Wyman,
to
this
remind
is so
yourself that
awesome.
you are a difference maker.
Can I read a difference maker? Oh, a dedicated person who can make a big impact even with just one small action or a few words. Someone who improves the lives of others. One who rallies or encourages others to propel themselves forward and bring about change. I love it. This is awesome. Can I put this on my dashboard in my car? I love it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Stefani, again, I can't thank you enough for you coming on the show of Twin City Tales podcast. If you want to learn more about Stefani, you want to give them your website?
Yeah, it's just, so you could go to the salesstrategynetwork.com or StefaniHavel.com. It's StefaniHavel. So StefaniHavel.com has the resources, but the Sales Strategy Network, you can download a lot of, if you have questions about DISC or you want to take an assessment, you can get one there. It also has a link to my calendar, the bettercallstephanie.com. You can book a call with me if you have questions. And I'm on all the social platforms. I'm really not that hard to find. My first name is spelt like one Stefani. So
Gotcha.
Sometimes, but I think even if you type in Stephanie and DISC, you're going to find me on some kind of social platform. So I'd love it if they'd reach out with any questions on sales or DISC and communications. I'd be happy to have a conversation.
Perfect. And for those of you that didn't catch all that, we'll actually put it on our Twin City Tales podcast Facebook page. We'll post it on there. And as we roll out of here, I want to thank Chris Hockey for the use of his song, Thanks, with no pun intended. This podcast is powered by Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, now with water treatment and water softener systems. Until the next show, you can't go wrong with Wyman Wong on Twin City Tales Podcast.
This song goes out to my family, to all the ones who died before me. I'm sure the family life made you do things you never wanted to, so I wrote this song